The 2025 MotoGP season has reignited one of the sport's fiercest rivalries, with the shadow of Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez still looming large. Despite retiring in 2021, Rossi's name continues to be dragged into controversies surrounding his protégé Francesco Bagnaia and Marquez, the eight-time world champion who remains one of the grid's most relentless competitors. In recent weeks, speculations swirled that Rossi had allegedly instructed Bagnaia to take down Marquez on track, reviving the bitter feud that first exploded back in 2015. But VR46 team director Pablo Nieto has strongly denied these claims, making it clear that Il Dottore has never ordered any of his riders, Bagnaia or otherwise, to deliberately target Marquez. According to Nieto, such an idea is not only baseless, but also goes against Rossi's principles as a MotoGP legend. The tension, however, remains undeniable. Bagnaia, hailed as one of Rossi's brightest students, has struggled through a turbulent 2025 campaign, failing to mount a consistent challenge as Marquez continues to dominate. This only fuels whispers that Rossi's influence could still play a role in shaping the championship battle, even from behind the scenes. For many fans, the Rossi-Marquez rivalry is more than just history. It is MotoGP's eternal flame, reignited whenever these two names collide. From an analytical perspective, it's fascinating how MotoGP's narrative continues to orbit around this rivalry, even when one of the central figures has long stepped away from racing. Marquez, who has rebuilt himself after years of injury setbacks, is proving once again that his hunger is unmatched. Meanwhile, Bagnaia faces the burden of expectation, not just as Ducati's spearhead, but also as the man many believe should carry Rossi's legacy into battle. The psychological weight of such assumptions could be one of the biggest factors holding him back this season. Do you think Rossi's past with Marquez is still influencing today's championship fight? Or should the focus be entirely on Bagnaia's own performance? The storyline has all the ingredients of high drama, history, rivalry, and legacy clashing head-on with the present. And as the season heads into its decisive phase, the paddock is bracing itself for even more sparks. The Rossi-Marquez saga may have begun a decade ago, but in 2025 it feels as alive and explosive as ever. While Nieto has shut down the rumours, the paddock remains divided. Some insiders argue that Rossi's competitive nature and his long-standing rivalry with Marquez make it impossible for him to remain completely detached. Even in retirement, the doctor has an aura that stretches far beyond his riding days, and many believe his influence on MotoGP is still quietly shaping the championship narrative. On the other side, there are those who insist Rossi has moved on. Having built his VR46 Academy into a powerhouse of young Italian talent, Rossi's primary mission now seems focused on nurturing the next generation rather than settling old scores. Yet, as long as Bagnaia is Ducati's spearhead and Marquez continues to fight at the front, comparisons to the infamous 2015 clashes will inevitably resurface. The emotional scars of that 2015 season, when Rossi accused Marquez of manipulating the championship in favour of Jorge Lorenzo, have never fully healed. Even now, nearly a decade later, fans still debate whether Marquez crossed the line or whether Rossi simply couldn't accept being beaten. This long-running rivalry has given MotoGP one of its most polarizing talking points, and it refuses to fade away. Adding more spice to the mix is the fact that Bagnaia's performances have been under heavy scrutiny. The champion has struggled to maintain the consistency needed to match Marquez's aggressive style and relentless pace. Every misstep from Bagnaia is quickly magnified by critics who argue that the pressure of carrying Rossi's legacy is weighing him down. Meanwhile, Marquez thrives in these kinds of storylines. He has never shied away from playing the villain when the crowd turns against him. In fact, the boos and whistles only seem to fuel his determination to prove doubters wrong. For Marquez, silencing Rossi's camp, even indirectly, would be the sweetest revenge after years of accusations and hostility. What makes this situation even more intriguing is the split within the fan base. Rossi loyalists continue to see Marquez as the antagonist, while Marquez supporters believe Rossi's shadow is unfairly cast over the Spaniard's achievements. Social media has become a battleground, with heated debates raging after every overtake, every crash, and every podium celebration. In the garage, however, Pablo Nieto's words suggest a different reality. The VR46 camp insists their focus is on performance, not politics. According to Nieto, Bagnaia's job is to fight for victories, not personal vendettas. Yet the timing of these denials only adds fuel to the fire, as fans question why the team feels the need to constantly address the Rossi-Marquez rivalry if it truly no longer matters. Sponsors and broadcasters, of course, welcome the drama. The Rossi-Marquez saga is box office gold, keeping global attention fixed on MotoGP. Whether fair or not, the sport thrives on rivalries, and this one is still driving headlines nearly 10 years after its most controversial chapter. In that sense, even if Rossi never uttered a single word to Bagnaia, the storyline has already written itself. Looking ahead, the next races will be crucial. If Bagnaia can find form and challenge Marquez directly on track, the whispers will only get louder. Every wheel-to-wheel battle between the two will be dissected, replayed, and debated endlessly. And if tensions boil over into a clash, the echoes of 2015 will return with full force, proving that some rivalries in MotoGP are simply impossible to bury. One crucial element often overlooked is the psychological chess being played in the background. Marquez knows full well that his presence alone can unsettle rivals, and when that rival happens to be one of Rossi's protégés, the stakes are doubled. Every glance in the paddock, every aggressive move on track carries the weight of history behind it. For Bagnaia, the challenge is not only to beat Marquez, but to do so while shrugging off the constant comparisons to Rossi. This is easier said than done, especially in a sport where narratives often matter just as much as lap times. The question becomes, can Bagnaia write his own legacy, or will he forever be tied to the shadow of the Doctor? From Ducati's perspective, the situation is equally complex. The manufacturer wants victories and titles, but they also understand the commercial value of fueling high-profile rivalries. A Bagnaia versus Marquez duel is marketable in every sense, reigniting global interest and drawing fans who may have drifted away after Rossi's retirement. Behind the cameras, insiders suggest that Rossi himself feels frustration when his name is constantly pulled back into the spotlight. While he may no longer race, his legendary status means his past battles are never truly forgotten. The idea that his influence still dictates parts of MotoGP is flattering to some, but also a burden Rossi likely never asked for.